You walk out that door, and I lose my mind. But not in the way you think. Let me tell you what actually happens the moment you leave. Not the version you imagine, where I sit by the door with sad eyes, waiting for you to come back like a living greeting card. That is a very flattering story you have told yourself. The reality is a little more complicated, considerably more industrious, and a lot more calculated than anyone in this relationship has been willing to admit out loud. This video is about what dogs do when you leave. All of it. The stuff you have seen on those home cameras, the stuff you have not seen and probably should not see, and the psychological machinery running underneath all of it that nobody talks about because it is genuinely more interesting than cute. Here is what you do not realize. The moment that door clicks shut, something switches in me. Not sadness, not panic. Something closer to a project manager arriving at an empty office on a Saturday. The humans are gone. The constraints are gone. The agenda is mine. Time to assess the full situation. First, I do a full perimeter check. I walk through every single room in a specific order I have developed and refined over time. Not because I think you are hiding somewhere, although I do check behind the shower curtain every single time without exception. I am cataloging. I am noting what changed since yesterday. What smells are new, what objects have moved, what the food situation looks like in the kitchen, what you left within reach that you probably thought was safely out of reach. This takes approximately 4 minutes and is conducted with a level of thoroughness that your cleaning habits simply do not deserve. This is where it gets interesting. The kitchen investigation alone is a multi-phase operation that I have refined over many months. Phase 1 is visual. I stand in the doorway and scan every horizontal surface methodically, counter edges, table corners. The stove situation, I am building a real-time map of opportunity. Phase 2 is olfactory. My nose processes information your eyes would miss entirely. Did you leave the butter out? I know. Is there something in the trash that was not there this morning? I know that too, and I know exactly what it is, and I have already made a full decision about it. Phase 3 is structural. Can anything be reached, nudged, or knocked into a more accessible position? I test the boundaries of the physical environment with a scientific rigor that frankly deserves more academic attention than it currently receives. But that is not the real reason any of this happens. The real reason is something behavioral scientists call separation-related behavior. And it is one of the most misunderstood things about dogs. Here is what most people think. The dog misses you, the dog is anxious, the dog acts out because of emotion. That is partially true. But the other half of the story is that I have spent weeks, maybe months, learning exactly what happens when you leave and exactly what happens when you come back. And I have adjusted every single behavior based on both of those data points consistently without you ever noticing that any adjustment was happening at all. Let me explain how this works. When you come home and find something destroyed, your first instinct is guilt management. You look at me. I produce the face. You feel genuinely terrible for being upset. The emotional intensity of your return drops significantly. You become softer, more apologetic somehow, even though you are the one who found the damage. I have not engineered this consciously, not entirely, but the outcome is the same every single time. A calmer return is a more comfortable return, and comfort is always what I am optimizing for. Here is what you do not realize. The destruction is not random. There is a very specific hierarchy to what gets targeted when I am left alone. First choice is anything that smells strongly of you. Your socks, your worn shirt left on the chair, the throw pillow you use every single night. The smell of you in concentrated form is both deeply comforting and intensely activating at the same time. It is like being handed a photograph of someone you miss and then being asked to sit quietly with it. The photograph does not help. It makes the absence more specific, more present, more difficult to simply wait through. Second choice is anything novel that arrived in the house recently. A new package sitting on the floor. A bag you brought home last week that has not been fully processed yet. New objects represent unprocessed information. I need to understand them completely. The fact that my method of understanding involves significant structural damage is a prioritization difference between us that I acknowledge and do not apologize for. Third choice is anything near the door. This one is about you specifically. The area near the door is where you disappeared and where you will eventually reappear. It is the most emotionally loaded real estate in the entire house. I am not chewing your shoes because I am angry at you. I am chewing your shoes because your shoes are the last surface you touched before you stopped being here. That distinction matters to me, even if the shoes do not survive it. This is where it gets deeply interesting. There is a behavior called the pre-departure anxiety response. And here is the part that should give you genuine pause. I begin reading your leaving cues before you have consciously decided to leave. You pick up your keys. My body responds immediately. You put on a specific jacket. My ears move. You check your phone twice in that particular distracted way. My posture changes. I have been studying your departure routine for so long that I can now tell the difference between you getting up to go to the kitchen and you getting up to leave the house for 8 hours. These are two physically similar actions. I distinguish them by micro details you have never once consciously registered. The academic term for this is cue discrimination. And I am so good at it that researchers who study separation anxiety in dogs consistently find that the anxiety response does not begin when the door closes. It begins up to 30 minutes before you leave. I am already processing your absence before you have even finished your coffee. Let that sit for a moment. Now let us talk about the middle. What happens after the perimeter check, after the kitchen audit, after the structural assessment of whatever the furniture situation is going to be today? What happens in the long, quiet middle of the time you are gone, when the acute activation has settled and the house has gone completely still? I sleep. And I sleep specifically in the locations that carry the highest concentration of your scent. Your side of the bed, your couch cushion, not the other one, the particular patch of floor directly in front of your closet. I am not doing this to be endearing, although I understand it reads that way on camera. I am doing this because your scent activates the same neurochemical comfort response that your actual physical presence activates. I have located the strongest available substitute for you, and I am using it to regulate my own nervous system through the hours. This is not sentiment, this is pharmacology, and it works. But here is what changes everything. I know you are coming back before you arrive. Not intuition. Pattern recognition. Your schedule has predictable rhythms. The specific sound of your car 2 streets over. Your footsteps on the stairs with the particular weight distribution I have fully memorized. The acoustic signature of your key entering the lock. My alert response begins approximately 90 seconds before you open the door. 90 seconds of preparation. Shaking off sleep. Moving to position. Calibrating the greeting. Yes, I calibrate the greeting. The duration of your absence directly determines the level of response you receive at the door. A short absence gets moderate enthusiasm. A standard workday gets full deployment. Multiple days away triggers a greeting so overwhelming you are physically destabilized the moment you step inside. This is not uncontrolled joy. This is a carefully graduated response system designed to communicate need intensity while making you feel so deeply wanted that the next full hour belongs entirely to me. You walk back through that door, you see me, and you think, my dog missed me so much. I think, sequence complete, parameters logged, data updated for tomorrow. We are both right, each in our own particular ways. You came into this thinking the story was about a dog missing its person. It was always a story about 2 species that have spent 15,000 years learning to read each other so precisely that neither one fully understands anymore who is managing whom. The door clicks open, and I run toward you immediately. That part is real. I need you to know it.